I'm Juan T. Salter, host of the Here We Are podcast. The podcast is dedicated to exploring topics of history, politics, queerdom, the perspective of Black folk and people of color, the American demographic future, geography, local issues, and culture, anything Gen X, and whatever else we discover along the way. The series of episodes are specifically delve into a topic relevant in the social political of late. The topic, queerdom, specifically the idea that LGBTQ plus people recruit, or as the right wing says, groom unsuspecting youth into choosing to be queer. We at Here We Are podcasts are going to turn that fallacy on its head by interviewing actual queer folk themselves. Today we invited Toni, a queer, Black, millennial, computerist, and avid gamer. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic as I can, Mr. Salter. How are you today?
I'm all right. First question I ask everybody here on Here We Are is, how did you get to be here? Or basically, how did you and your people get to be here?
For sure. Well, both sides of my family are from the South, Arkansas. Actually, both sides are from Arkansas. And so they all came over to Memphis.
Mm-hmm. And, where at in Arkansas?
Tyronza and West Memphis.
So Tyronza is northeast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's my dad's side, and my mom's side from West Memphis.
Okay.
But they all settled here in Memphis, and that is where I am from. This is where I am from, and born and bred and raised. Lived here most of my life. Moved to Middle Tennessee after I graduated from college in the middle of last decade, and I decided to move back home because I felt like I had some loose ends to tie up, and I just really missed being home.
Okay. All right. This season's topic, where did you learn or who taught you to be queer?
So honestly, my generation did not have many role models. You know, it's still like, I think it's definitely become a bit more accepted as time has gone on. Our generation, it definitely started to become more visible with media, but we still didn't have role models. Like, I didn't have any relatives. I didn't particularly have any queer friends until later in high school. So my first teacher was the internet. It was AOL chat rooms. It was, phone lines, those phone lines that I probably shouldn't have been on, in middle school, talking to adults and all this other shit. But those were my first teachers as far as, how to be queer, how to have, queer sex. Oh, and Sue Johansson.
Who is Sue Johansson?
She had a show called, I think, Talk Sex with Sue Johansson. It used to come on Oxygen late at night, so you had to keep that back button on. But she definitely talked about everything as far as, the adult intimacy and all this other stuff.
I'm gonna have to look this up on YouTube.
It's on there. It's a little fuzzy, but it's on there from 20 years ago. But we had just the media resources, HBO, After Dark. Like, I had media and internet, and I had no particular role models until later on in life. But then later on.
Let me ask you this, since you're talking about media.
Yes.
The Real World, that one, he eventually died of HIV. He was one of the first characters on The Real World.
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name.
Well, did that realm come into yours?
I was aware of it, but I didn't watch The Real World particularly. I'm trying to think of some other shows. I remember they had a lot of dating shows, and they would have some queer people on a lot of dating shows on MTV as well. And I remember this one particular show that was on HBO called 6 Feet Under.
Oh, yeah.
It came out like 25 years ago, late 90s, early 2000s. And it was the first time I ever saw a gay couple. And it was a black gay man.
Yep.
And he had a white gay partner. Yep. And he was like a police officer. And his partner was... he worked in the morgue. Yeah, the Undertaker. Yeah, he worked in the morgue. So it was like the first time I was hooked on this show. Yeah,
I remember that.
I was real young. I was probably like 8 or 9, but I was hooked on the 6 Feet Under. Seen all the episodes.
And if I can interject, as a black queer gay character, he was acceptable to me.
Yes.
He was acceptable. He wasn't way out there one way. I was like, okay.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And to be quite honest, like, even though I am very radical with my own ideas, I think as far as I present, it's more so middle of the ground as far as how
I remember thinking,
yeah,
he okay. I take that one.
right, right, yeah. He was definitely the socially acceptable masked man that is able to be consumed by the masses generally because he's not overly, flamboyant, etc. So things that are looked down upon. But yeah, that was a lot of what I had to go off of.
In your personal life, in your personal realm, and this may be, you think back on it. Was there anybody you can remember now, like, oh, so and so? When you think about it later, it's like, or you found out somebody later was gay that you didn't know at the time.
I haven't had any of those revelations as far as like, like a ha type of thing, as far as looking back on anybody. But some people I am thankful for are like my group of friends in high school, because I had a queer group of friends. There was a lot of girls that I used to hang with, and they particularly probably weren't the best influence on me.
Why you say that?
Because I don't know if you ever heard of this show called Euphoria on HBO.
No.
So Euphoria is about high school students, but they're in these very adult situations, and it's dealing with a lot of drugs, a lot of sex, a lot of wild situations. That
sounds like high school.
It does sound like high school, but times 10. Like, it was pretty crazy. And so I'm thankful that I got a chance to be free and be myself around peers of my age. They accepted me, and we were all figuring out stuff together and just trying to learn who we are and our places in society and stuff like that. So I'm thankful for those times and that particular group of friends, even though I haven't seen them, and some of them are not here with us today. But also I dated somebody I probably shouldn't have been dating or dealing with when I was in high school. He was a much older man. But a big thing I'm thankful for as far as dealing with him is that he taught me, like, don't ever have sex with these niggas without protection. Don't ever have sex with these motherfuckers without protection. So that was something that really stuck with me, and I think that it definitely, I know it carried me far, because it just allowed me to keep myself safe, and I was in a lot of situations where people were not trying to keep me safe. And were not honest about who they were and their status and all this other stuff,
Which is the reason why you had him, because you can't rely on somebody else. You have to do it yourself.
Exactly. And, going in situations, especially being the, I'm going to be candid, especially being the partner that, would be the, penetrate role and stuff like that. Like, the onus generally will be on someone who is the top to bring this. But for me, I always had that thing on me. Like, I always brought it with me and never depending on somebody else having it. You know what I'm saying? So
with your generation and mine too, Gen X, it's always been out there. It's always, it's like, you knew that gay sex had that part of it that straight sex didn't have.
Yes. You
knew that.
Yes.
Now, whether we all accepted it and took it as real, but we knew. Even because I remember, I go back when it was called gay cancer. And I was intelligent, and I was like, wait a minute, that don't compute, because one is biological and one is psychological, so they can't.
Yeah.
That don't make no sense.
Literally. Right.
Okay. What term was acceptable around your period? Was it gay, queer, same gender loving, other?
I have went through different phases with these words. I'm totally fine at this point in my life with gay. Like that's who I am. Like that's what I does and what I do. I'm totally fine with that. Um, you know, at one point in time, because I've always, even though I present my own choice of drag is a masculine one, right?
Okay.
So that is my choice of how I present myself in the world because it's something that's kept me safe. It's something that I have related to and I have aligned with, sure. But I've also, I've definitely taken a lot of inspiration from feminine things. And those have been the things that have inspired me the most are feminine things. And for most of my life, I never felt like a man or a woman. And I finally got the words for that, in my 20s, like, oh, like non-binary. So that is something I associate with. So being someone that identified as, same-sex loving, but also, gender,
Fluid.
it's a gender fluid type of, person, which even with being non-binary is a form of being trans. So I just kind of embrace being the term queer. But nowadays I'm just, I feel like a man, and that's just my choice of drag, and that's how I move in life. But I definitely have embraced same gender loving as well in my early 20s because it's something that Black queer men definitely use more. It's a term that definitely applies to our community, particularly more because the gay movements have generally excluded Black queer men. So same gender loving has been something that if you go on a lot of Black queer sites and a lot of circles, something that they embrace. So I embrace that too. So, and they're all valid, but yeah, it's fine.
Okay. That leads me to another question that wasn't on our thing. But my period, it was gay. But I embrace queer now because gay did have a white.
Yes.
There's that, and then plus queer. To me, queer covers everybody.
It covers everybody.
It covers everybody.
Yeah.
It's all the mix, and our alphabet's just getting too long. And like, you know what? Y'all need to shorten this up.
Literally. And and we don't want to erase anybody specific.
We don't want to erase you specifically, but like,
it is a good blanket term.
And it covers everybody.
It does. And even that word, like, I'm not the same type of gay person today that I was 20, 30 years ago. I'm not the same person. Like, I have evolved. And I dare say you probably relate. You're not the same. And as I've come into who I am as a person and become more comfortable with that, the titles have definitely adjusted as well. So queer is totally fine.
So the other question, so you said this group of queer folks in high school. I'm gonna make an assumption. Were they Black?
One other of them, they were. I had a woman best friend, best friend. She was Black, but the others were white, and we had some other rotating faces in there that were a mix of different races.
Because my assumption was, not only were they Black, because they were Black and lesbian. It was more acceptable. Like if your crowd would have been all guys, that wouldn't have went over as well.
Nah, it wouldn't have. You're right. I agree.
It's like, we'll tolerate them.
Yeah.
But no, don't go. Nah, that went too far.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And so, but yeah, it was one other Black girl, and we hung out with a few more white girls. And so, I was the only dude, running with a bunch of girls. So that was very telling.
Here's another assumption. But the general straight didn't necessarily really consider them feminine girls either. So that was why they got their space, because they didn't want to fuck with them.
Yeah. And especially like our school was so mixed as far as just all the different types of people there. Like we had Black kids and white kids and Hispanic kids, and from different backgrounds and classes, and we was all thrown.
Oh, you went to progressive school. Never mind.
Yeah, it was just all, and we were all thrown together. And so, but it wasn't as progressive as it could have been, or probably was at one point, because they brought all those hood ass kids.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I thought you might have went to a more hood school, and you said there was an out. So what school was that?
And so, and so I definitely had some moments where a lot of hood kids was like, "Fuck is y'all doing?" You know, and so. Especially because we were very alternative. I was very alternative. I still am that person, but I like anime and rock music and gaming, and so we were the nerdy kids.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So
that also affords you a little bit of space too.
Yeah,
Well, you out there anyway, so we don't care.
Yeah, probably, exactly. Yeah. Y'all out there, and we were, grouped in. We was kind of nerdy, kind of goth, anime, video game kids. A bunch of us. So, I definitely think, though, that being in that particular group afforded a sense of, it was a sense of protection, and there was some protection in that. So, because let's be honest, like them hood ass kids, they weren't going to fuck with them white kids. They weren't going to fuck with them white kids. But, yeah.
So this one, how did you come out? And another way to think of that, maybe, so you were kid, and then something changed. If something changed, what was it?
I just remember being in 11th and 12th grade and just really, on the cusp of young adulthood, and just kind of being like, I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, this is literally who I am. Like, I just don't care. Like, I remember I dressed up. I may have tried to show you the pictures too, but I dressed up as this character who was very Flash Dance inspired, and I went to the thrift store. I was like, I'm gonna fucking do it. I had like a lavender headband.
Did you have a headband on?
Yes.
Did you have some leggings?
Yes, I had some leggings. I had lavender leggings. Because
I actually wore some leggings in high school.
I loved that. And it was Flash. Well, I did Flash Dance because it was 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so I was like, that's what I want to do. I'm gonna fucking do, and I don't give a fuck who has something to say about it. And so, I had the leggings, I had the headband, I found a fanny pack, and I wore the shirt. It was cut off shirt. It was tank top. With a tank top underneath it. Hey, I killed it. But of course, I got heckled, and there was a group of very masculine dudes, kind of confronting me about it, and I just didn't back down. I was like, okay, so what? I don't give a shit what you say. So, like, they definitely thought I would be scared, but I didn't care. I guess they were like, this motherfucker's a little crazy. So they left me alone. And even, probably towards after graduation, some of them even hopped in my inbox.
Oh, yeah.
You know how that goes.
Yeah.
They bully you on the outside, but then they want to be in your bed in secrecy.
Once I had been to California and had seen, and like when I went back to Indiana, I was like, I got somewhere to go. I don't care what y'all doing. The same ones that would tease me in classroom when I seen them in the hall by myself, they're X-ray. They would X-ray strip me. I'm like, you fucking freak. Like, so when you're around them, but how you doing? Get away from me.
Literally.
Get away from me.
It's so whack. It's so whack. But yeah, I'm sorry you had to go through that as well. But
I would see them in the hall by myself, and they would give me that look and like, you little freak, you.
Literally, exactly. Just the ostracizing of it all, But
you better hope I don't bust you out next time you come out.
and that's the real tea. That's the real tea to clock. But. Yeah, that is when I decided. It was like that was a pivotal moment in high school. I feel like there was one other one. Yeah, also when I was in college, and I had a relative that was sort of like my mom, and she was living with me at the time because I lived with her when I was in high school because I was just doing a lot of homelessness stuff. So I appreciate her for that. But she ended up having to live with me, and I was like, girl, whatever, you come live in my apartment. I'm never fucking there anyway. Because I was schooling and working, and I was never there. So, but I just remember I started dating somebody, and he was very, very out, very open, very flamboyant, and I was still trying to even get to the next level of comfortability with myself in my life, and he kind of did help push me towards that. He's a terrible person, but in the end, very. But I just, was like, fuck it. I literally walked in the house one day and I was like, hey, T, I know today your birthday. I'm gay and my boyfriend want to come to the party. So cool, right? And she was like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yep.
So I just like sat it down very casually. I was like, I got a boyfriend and he want to come to the party. She was like, okay. So,
do you have any regrets about your process? I know you mentioned about dating someone that was much older than you.
Yeah.
Are there any others?
That's something that, that's something I definitely have had to go back and forth because it's benefits, but ultimately, probably shouldn't have been doing that. I know we probably shouldn't have because, legality. But I wish that I still would have had some more moments of just being super transparent with other people in my life because I still kind of feel like I live in a glass closet, even though I'm not ashamed or, I'm unabashed about a lot of, things concerning my sexuality and such. But I wish that there's some moments of being able to speak up or speak out and up against, some bigotry type stuff or just being more transparent about, my, type of love. I do wish that I would be more transparent about that. And those
you're still young.
Yeah, I am young.
Moments.
I'm youngish. Youngish. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. That's very true. So yeah. But there is one. I know another pivotal moment.
Okay.
If I may talk.
Go ahead.
Another pivotal moment was actually I forgot about this, but when I was 15, I was dating somebody that was a little older than me. I met him off of a phone line. I was on the phone line, but I think I was 15. I think he was like 20, 21. So
let's being that right wing thinks it. You weren't supposed to be on that line. You were participating in illegality to be on that line, right?
I shouldn't have been on that line. I shouldn't have been on that line, but I had nothing to stop me from getting on that line.
But I'm saying, just to put everything on board, the adults were legally there. You were the one that was supposed to be there, that was there illegally because you did it.
Yeah.
It wasn't somebody, we're going to go on this line because there's underage. No, this is the underage, not down.
and that's real spit. But then also, once this nigga found out that I was 15, he probably should have been like, nah. So there's that other part.
Okay, that part, yeah. That part, yeah.
So,
but the how you got there, that was on you.
Yeah. And so, and I think this kind of ties into this question of like, is there anything that you would have changed?
Okay.
So, and I'll tell you what. So, we dated and it was not very long lived because I bought him something for his birthday and I think that he felt he could pluck me, as we say. And I was very keen about not being used even at that age. And I was like, I think that he's feeling as though he could take advantage of me now, and I'm just not feeling it. But I have my own cell phone, and my mother did not have a phone, so I let her keep my phone. And he called the phone while I was at school one day, and she had my phone. So she confronted me about it. It was like, who is this, calling the phone? And he sound like the F word, he sound like
the F word.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't want to get your podcast.
Oh no.
Okay, yeah, he sound like a faggot.
So mom did say that.
Yeah, she did say it.
Okay.
And la hoo ha, she was going at it. She was not happy. But that was a big pivotal moment too, because I ain't gonna lie. You know what I did?
What?
I looked at her, I laughed at her in her face. I did. Like I just laughed at her, and she thought I was gonna be intimidated. I wasn't scared. I was not scared. Like it was what it was. I just laughed at her, like, girl, you a fool. and so she was like, I'm gonna get your daddy to talk to you about this because this ain't right, et cetera, et cetera. And she was just ballistic. And so my father, who's a whole lot calmer as a person, he took me to Piccadilly and he confronted me about it and was like, well, your mama, she told me about something that's going on and what's going on. And I literally moved my plate to the side and I was like, listen, whatever y'all think is going on, don't worry about it because I got it handled and I got it taken care of. And he was like, all right. And he just shut his ass up and kept eating his food. And so I think there was a lot of moments of confidence that really started to kind of like shape who I am today. So it was a lot of moments in high school where I just had to stand my ground with people and just be like, I don't give a fuck what you say, even against authority figures and parents. So, you know, that's not easy, but it is something I'm proud of.
Do you have any advice, wisdom you care to share for a younger person in the community listening to the podcast?
Definitely, you know, I understand if you're in a situation where you need certain individuals to survive and you may have to suppress who you are. So those situations are understandable. But once young people get to a certain age of self-sufficiency, I highly advise that anybody who is not for you or does not appreciate who you are in totality as a person, get the fuck away from them. You know, let those people come back to you on their own terms or not. But don't be afraid to be who you are. You know, don't feel like you have to box yourself into a down low life or whatever. I know, and we all got our struggles, and you know, people have to grow, and there's different areas and phases and whatnot. Like life is not simple, but don't suppress who you are because life is too short to do that and to wake up at 85 and be like, I regret being who I was, because I've seen those stories of queer people who are, you know, in the latter stages of their life, and they say the biggest thing that they regret is living their truth and being who they are. So do that shit. You only got one life, girl. Do it.
So thank you very much for being on. Here we are.
Yeah, thank you, Juan.